Greetings. Wow. Greetings, greetings. What a group. Jenna and Josh have really started something, haven't they? Wow. Back this up a bit. Thank you. I've been looking forward to coming here. You know, I came over to Vegas one day just to sit down and talk to Josh and Jenna. And I was pretty fascinated with what they were doing. They're so young and so alive, and they built something so phenomenal, really. You have something really to be proud of in those two, I'll tell you. They're great leaders. This afternoon, I'm going to share with you some of the information that I've been gathering over the past 58 years. I sat down with a man who was 58 years ago, and I'm telling you, I was lost. I didn't know which end was up. And he gave me this book. Now, I'm going to come back and refer to it a few times, but he said, if you do what this book suggests, he said, you can have anything you want. Now, at the time, I was 26. I was flat broke. I was earning $4,000 a year, and I owed $6,000. So if I had worked for 18 months and just paid debt, I would have nothing to live on to break even. It was an impossible situation. And I think there's a lot of people that get into a place where they feel it's an impossible situation. That it doesn't seem to matter what they do, they can't win. But I have come to learn that there's no such thing as an impossible situation. There's only situations that we have difficulty accepting. If we listen to someone that's done what we would love to do and then do exactly what they tell us, we're going to win. Now, that was a very unusual thing for me to do because I was 26. I'd been out of the Navy. I've been fired from all kinds of jobs. I would never do what anybody told me to do. In fact, I resented anybody telling me to do something. And so I had a very closed mind. I wasn't going to go far or do anything. And he said, read this book. Well, I didn't even read comic books. I had never read a book. But I'm going to tell you, when I started to read that and listen to him, and he said, do exactly what I tell you until you find out I'm lying or that I don't know what I'm talking about. He didn't tell lies, and he didn't know what he was talking about. And my life started to change. And so I want to share some of that with you and talk about where we're going and what we're doing. We talk about connecting the dots. Most people never learn how to connect the dots. School doesn't teach us how to connect the dots. And so a lot of people are wandering around, they don't know what to do. Their life isn't going where they want it to go. They're not doing what they want to do. And they're stuck. And they don't know how to change it. What I'm going to share with you is how to change any situation you've got. And you can connect the dots. We're going to talk about how to earn more money. I love earning money. I just absolutely love it. Now, you see, money enables us to do the things we want to do. Money enables you to extend the good you do far beyond your own presence. My partner and I made a decision a number of years ago. We were going to build schools in Africa. We build a new school every 2.5 weeks. Our goal is to build one every day. So we couldn't do that if we didn't have money. It costs a lot of money. So there's thousands of children now that are getting nutritious food, warm clothing, just everything under getting educated because we have a little bit of money. Money makes you more of what you already are. If you're not a nice person, you'll become terrible. If you are a nice person, you'll become a nicer person. Money is like a magnifier, but it's the medium of exchange that's used all over the world. So for a person to say it's not important, it's absurd. It is important. It's vitally important. Then we want to add to that. We want to enjoy more freedom. You see, we've got the ability to create the kind of life we want, but it doesn't happen by accident. Yet, if you don't gain an awareness of who you are and what makes you tick, odds are pretty good you'll never be free. Most people live in a little cage of their own making, and they don't even know it. I want to share stuff with you that'll help you begin to live the life that you're really designed to live. You see, you and I are God's highest form of creation. There's nothing on the planet that will equal us. Now, I often point out that we're the only creature on the planet that's totally disoriented in our environment. It's true. All the other little creatures are completely at home in their environment. They blend in. We don't. We've been given the mental faculties to create our own environment. Yes, just that most people don't do a very good job of it. School doesn't teach us how to do it. You go right through our educational system, come out and know virtually nothing about yourself. Now, I want you to take your phone and look at it. I usually have mine in my pocket. I left it backstage. But take your phone for a moment, look at it. And think of this. Let each of those lines on the screen represent a level of vibration. Everything the phone can do, you can do with your marvelous mind. We refer to these levels of vibration as frequencies. And there's an infinite number of frequencies. Now your cell phone has its own frequency. If I've got your number in my phone, I can hit send, bang, you get the message. Doesn't matter where you are. I could take a picture, hit send, and simultaneously with me hitting it, you'll have it. See, in truth, there isn't any time or space. That's an illusion. We're dealing here with energy, and we're dealing with frequencies. We're dealing with energy. Everybody's phone has its own frequency. Well, so do people. You can transfer pictures from your mind to somebody else's mind on the other side of the world just the same as you can with your phone. Now, most people never really gain an understanding of that or how to do that. But everything you're thinking, you're sending off charges of energy. Thought is energy. Thought waves are cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. Thought waves makes the laser look puny. Yes, the most potent form of energy is, most people don't really know much about it. They don't think very much about it. Every great leader that has ever lived has been in complete and unanimous agreement that you and I become what we think about. They've disagreed on almost everything else but that one point. We truly do become what we think about. Most people think of what they don't want. They spend time thinking of what they don't want. I get so sick of living this way. I'm so tired of never being able to afford it. I'm so sick of not taking a nice vacation. I'm so sick, and that's all they're talking about. And they're attracting it. They've magnetized themselves to what they don't want. When I sat down and talked to Jenna, I felt like I was in an echo chamber. And she'd say things, and I felt like something was coming back at me, you know? Well, I want to take anything you've heard me say, I want to explain it. It's like I was saying to Jenna, I don't see myself, I'm not a public speaker. That's not how I see me. I've never belonged to a speaker bureau. I don't sell myself as a speaker. I see myself more as a teacher. When I figured out how the mind and how life works, all I want to do is teach it to somebody else, because my life had changed so dramatically. Well, if we will think of the phone, get it straight in your mind. Your mind works like the phone. Now look, when you get on another person's frequency, you're one with them and magic begins to happen. That's what happens. You can dial a number, somebody could be in Kosovo. Oh, hi, how are you doing? They're on the other side of the world. Do you know, I live in Toronto. I worked in Kuala Lumpur a lot. I went there every month for 5 years. It's 25 hours in the air from Toronto to KL. If you go any further, you're coming back. It's as far as you can go. It takes 25 hours in the air to get there from Toronto. But I can touch the phone, bang, they're there. This is like magic. Well, do you know that everything we want is already here? You're going to find nothing's created or destroyed. Everything's already here, but we've got to get on the frequency that it's on. We've got to get on in tune with it. And when we do, it comes flying at us. Now, what The Secret didn't do, it didn't teach you much about the law of attraction. Talked a lot about it, but didn't teach much about it. Law of attraction is a secondary law. It's not a primary law at all. The law of vibration is the primary law. That law decrees everything vibrates, nothing rests. This whole building and everything in it, you and me and everything in it, is moving. It's energy and it moves. It's in a very high speed of vibration. This body we're living in moves. As we activate brain cells, everything in us starts to change. And we can activate those brain cells at will. So do you see, when you get on another person's frequency, magic starts to happen. When you sit down to invite a person into the business, don't be in a rush. Get to talk to them. Find out where they're from. What are they doing? What do they really want in life? Get to know them and listen. Most people don't listen. They talk and they hear, but they don't listen. You hear with your ears. You listen with your emotions. There's a big, big difference. You can hear what I'm saying. Are you really listening to it? Are you letting it sink right in? That's what I learned we have to do. Now, everything you want is also on its own frequency. I don't know what you want. If I were to sit with you one-on-one, that's what I would be digging for. I would be asking questions, and I would be wanting to figure out, what do you want? And you know, most people don't know what they want. If you don't really draw it out of them, you're not going to find out. Don't assume that they do know what they want, because hardly anyone does. Yet the bizarre part of this is they can have anything they want. You see, what's happening in this company, it's unusual, probably relative to the way you relate to companies and your life. But relative to the law, it's not unusual at all. It's somebody that knows what they're doing and they do it right. So what you want to do is become one with it. Find out what the person wants, become one with it. Now, look at your present results right now. I want you to really think about your results. If you're thinking about your income, look at your income. If you're talking about relationships, look at your relationships. If you're talking about your health, really take a good look at it. You're attracting what you're in harmony with. Now, if somebody had told me that when I first started, I wouldn't have liked it, because I didn't like what was coming into my life. I didn't like it at all. But we've got to understand nobody's given it to us. If it's coming, we've earned it. If we don't like it, we can change it. It's so basic and so simple. Energy attracts like energy. This thing we're living in is a molecular structure. It's a massive energy and high speed of vibration. That photograph there would be Kirlian photography. In 1934, Semyon Kirlian, a Russian, perfected a form of photography, and you could photograph mass, and the energy coming from it would penetrate the camera, penetrate the film, and he perfected what's called today Kirlian photography. Well, there's a glow of energy around you. You can train yourself to see it, and you can certainly feel it. Yet whatever we're thinking controls the vibration we're in. Because as we think, we activate brain cells, and that's what causes us to vibrate. Like for me to move my arm up and down, I had to activate brain cells to do that. You often hear of a person maybe taking a stroke. The brain is the greediest part of the body when it comes to blood. Well, if the blood stops for some reason to go to a group of cells in the brain, those cells die. That's the electrical system's cut off. And then the arm's just hanging. Won't work. But we have found, now they used to leave them like that until they died, we found if you move the arm, open the hand, close the hand, move the arm, you will educate healthy cells to do what the damaged cells can no longer do, and the person gets the use of the limb back. But what they've done is reprogram other brain cells. Now, what you're thinking dictates how you feel. Feeling is the language of the subconscious. When you say, I feel, what you're really talking about is the vibration you're in. You say, I feel terrible. You're in a terrible vibration. Change your thinking. But you know, a person in a terrible vibration doesn't want to hear that. It's almost like they want to enjoy their misery. You know people like that. Now you see somebody else and they say, God, I just feel phenomenal. That they are choosing good pictures. Well, make a decision to become one with whatever you want. Now, I would imagine there's someone here that is very new in the company. You just started, and you're here at the conference, and you don't even know what the positions are, but you want to go right to the top. Well, find out what that top position is and act as if you're already there. Now, how would you do that? Well, find somebody that's there and see how they act. Listen to them, find out what they talk about. Watch them, see how they work. Then say, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, I have been teaching this for a long, long time, and every now and then I see somebody that's doing that. Do you know what the problem with most people? They don't know what they want. They really don't know what they want. And it's rather sad, because you can have anything you want. There is absolutely no limits, none. Now, you know, there's a part of our mind that understands that, our intellect can grasp that, but does our paradigm, does our emotional mind grasp it? Most people's emotional mind won't grab it. Well, I just can't grab that, you know. I mean, anything you want? Yeah, anything. Anything. You can create your own economy. You create your own life. Now, the truth is we're already doing it, just that most people don't know what it is they're doing. And they go all the way through their life and they never learn how to do this, how to make it work. Now, that's all I deal in, because I learned how to make it work. And I'll mention that as we go through. But you see, I do know this, it's all about the mind. And it's about your marvelous mind. Now, here's what we want to know. There's only one mind. We don't have a few thousand minds in here. We have one mind. Everyone's an expression of mind. Mind is movement. Body's the manifestation of the movement. When we really get that, when that sinks in to that part of us where we say we get it, then we could look at somebody else that's really doing well, yet thinking they're using their mind a lot better than me. I wonder what the hell they're doing. I think I'll study and figure it out. Now, it's a strange thing. Usually the people that aren't doing well don't want to study. They just want the answer, but they don't want to earn it. If you make up your mind you're going to study and you're going to figure out what do these people at the top do, I guarantee you things will get better. Now, Buckminster Fuller is somebody that I was fascinated with, great architect, designer. He said, you never change things by fighting existing reality. Now, if some of you, if you're having problems in your marriage, you may be fighting existing reality. If you're having trouble with your business, you may be fighting existing reality. You're trying to change this. You're trying to change them. Well, you're trying to change something, forget it. You never change things by fighting existing reality. To change things, you build a new model. That makes the existing model obsolete. Now, I did that 58 years ago. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I really didn't. But I found someone that I trusted. That's important. You want to be trusted if you're going to bring people into your business. Billy Sharp, one time with the Stone Foundation in Chicago, a psychologist, he taught me something that I found very important. He said, a person will not share their problem with you until they feel you've got the solution to their problem. If they don't feel you can help them, they're not going to share it with you. They're not going to open up. Well, he said, to change things, you build a new model. I had a man help me build a new model. My life changed like Jenna's or Josh's. I mean, whoa, it was so fast. People stopped talking to me. Friends that I thought were friends, they stopped talking to me. They resented the fact that I was winning, I think. I didn't ever figure that out at the time, but I thought, I'm not going to let that bother me. That was a big move in itself. Now, if you really want to make your business rock, build a new model. Treat this conference as the turning point. Say, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to listen to the leaders and I'm going to do exactly what they tell me, even if you don't like it. And you may not like it, because what they're going to tell you to do is not in harmony with your habitual nature. They're going to tell you to do something that's more in harmony with their habitual nature. See, the beautiful part of this industry is that there's leaders. Now, there isn't as many as there's going to be, but there's leaders. If we study them, we'll see what they're doing, and we can do what they're doing. Now, I remember him telling me that. He said, just do exactly what I tell you. Now, you know, I had spent a number of years in the Canadian Navy. I had worked in bars and in factories. In fact, I couldn't hold a job. I had a terrible work record. I had a bad attitude. I mean, I was just about, you wouldn't want me even on your team. I mean, I was just that kind of a, no, you really wouldn't. I mean, I was a dead loser. And the idea that I could win was just so far removed. And you see, I would never do what I was told. And God only knows why, but when this guy said, do exactly what I tell you, his name was Ray Stanford, I decided to do it. And it didn't take me long to realize I made a wise decision, because compensation comes fast when you start doing the right things. Things start to change fast. You don't have to wait a long time, you know. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to become a millionaire tomorrow, but you're going to feel better about what you're doing right away. You're going to see immediate results in little things. If you're observant, you'll watch your life change right before your eyes. This is so good, and unfortunately, most people are extras in their own movie. They are. They're extras in their own movie. Why would they do that? It's their movie. They're underwriting it. They're the director. They're producer. They're the casting agent. They're the director. And they're extras. Somebody else is the star. Oh, look at him. Look at her. Will you see that? Wow. And they're just looking. They don't realize their life is their movie. It's like Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage. And it really is. Now, you see, you should ask yourself, who's the director of your movie? If you figure out what you really want, I can show you how to get it. Now that's a pretty bold statement. But I know how to do that. I'm going to start by telling you a story. You see, if let's suppose you're relatively new in the business, you haven't done a whole lot of studying, and somebody said you can have anything you want, it'd become pretty acceptable that you wouldn't accept that. Well, and then somebody said, well, there's limits to what you can do. Not everybody's the same. I got a call. I was right here. I think a second where I was. I was here in Vegas, and a guy named Ed Morrissey phoned me. And he said, Bob, I'm here with a guy. He's reading your book. He doesn't believe I know you. I said, okay. So he said, will you talk to him? And I said, yeah, if he wants to talk to me. So this guy got on the phone, and he's thanking me for this book. He loved the book Born Rich. He was really into the Born Rich. Anybody that wants it, they can go to our site, go to proctorgallagher.com, and you can download it for nothing. You were born rich. And this guy was going nuts over the book, and he's telling me this all over the phone. And then he said, whereabouts are you? I said, what do you mean, where am I? Well, where are you now? And I said, I'm in Las Vegas. He said, could I come and see you? And I said, yeah, if you want. He said, well, I'm in LA, so he says, it won't take me long. Now, I'm going back about 18, 19 years. Guy's name's Phil Goldfine. And he got here, so I built a bit of a rapport with him. I'm rapping back and forth. And I said, Phil, what's the most you've ever earned in a year? That's one of the first things I ask people. I don't care what the answer is, but I want to know what the answer is. When a person tells you what they earned, you've got an idea of where their mind is programmed. Because you can measure money right to the cent. You can't measure your health like that. You can't measure relationships. You can't measure anything as accurately as you can measure money. You go to a doctor and they'll say you're in perfect health, and you walk out and drop dead. That happens. How did he measure you so wrong? You know? But with money right to the penny. I don't really care what they earn, but I want to know. And then that gives me an idea where they're programmed, because you're all programmed. We're all I am, you are. And he said $250,000. Now, he later told me he lied. And I suspected it when he said it. He'd earn about 200. And I said, what do you do? He said, I'm a film producer. I said, are you any good? Well, I think so. I said, well, you're not very good if you're earning 200,000. Well, I don't know. I said, what do you really want? He said, I want to earn millions of dollars. I said, well, I can show you how to do that. I know how to earn millions of dollars. I said, is that all you want? No, he said, I want to win an Oscar. I said, I can show you how to do that. He said, really? I said, yeah. Is that all you want? No, he said, I want to win an Emmy. Well, I said, I can show you how to do that. And he looked at me like, you know, what the hell are you talking about? Like, it didn't matter what he says, I could tell him how to do it. Do you know that everything you get, you're going to get the same way? Doesn't matter what it is. There are laws that govern this whole universe. One of the laws that Carnegie gave us, that's one of the best, he said, any idea that is held in the mind, any idea, doesn't matter what it is, any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that you keep thinking about. Now get this, that's either feared or revered. You know, the great sufferer Job in the Bible, he says, lo, the thing I fear has come to visit upon me. Hold a bad idea, worry, you're going to get it, make book on it, you can take it to the bank. He said, any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin to close itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. That's the perpetual law of transmutation. That's the law of the universe. Energy is always moving into form. Whatever you're thinking about, it's moving into form. I don't care. Is it an Oscar you want? I'll show you how to get it. Now, let me share something with you. See where these statistics are. Okay? I can read this from here. The number of professional filmmakers in the world in 2018, there were 3,500,000. That's a reasonably pretty good competition, isn't it? Now, the number of feature films that were released in 2018, 12,198. 3,500,000 filmmakers, only 12,198 films made in 2018. The number of films that even competed for an Oscar, 341. I mean, it's getting pretty tight, isn't it? The number of Oscars awarded each year, just 24. Here I am. I'll show you how to get that. Now look at this. A person is 3.83 times more likely to get struck by lightning than they are win an Oscar. The odds of winning an Oscar are about equal to the odds of finding a pearl in an oyster. $3,072 Oscars have been awarded since they began in 1930. And here I am saying, I'll show you how to get it. Is that what you want? I'll show you how to get it. Well, look at it. Of those, only 26 people have also won an Emmy and a Tony. See, the Oscars are for movies. Emmys are for television, Tonys for Broadway. I mean, can you see what a little game amongst, there's not many winners. Of course, there's not many at the top of this company either. There can be hundreds of thousands of affiliates. How many at the top? You know something? They're no different than the person that's brand new today. They only appear to be different. They earn a little more money every minute. You know, I have an affirmation. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. I've been repeating that for years. You like it? It's so good, isn't it? Love it. When we go to bed at night, I know as I go to sleep, it's still coming in. And in the morning, I never counted. I don't even know how to count it, but I could get people to count it. And I was earning it while I was sleeping. Yeah, see, the beautiful truth is, when you really understand this, you can earn more money when you're sleeping than you're going to spend when you're awake. It's a nice idea. Well, there's the guy, and there's the Oscar. I had him stand up in a seminar in Los Angeles, stand up on a chair and give his acceptance speech after he had been nominated for an Oscar, but they haven't announced who was going to win. This was about a week before they announced who the winners were. I had him stand up in front of hundreds of people and give his acceptance speech for winning the Oscar. And he won it. There he is with his Oscar and his Emmy. Now, I'm not saying this to impress you, but to impress upon you, this guy knew nothing about what I'm talking about when he came here to Vegas to see me. He is without question one of the best students I've ever met. If I suggest he does something, I never wonder whether he's going to do it. I know he's going to do it. If I say study this, I know he's going to study it. Never a question in my mind. He also won I forgot what it's called in China that's equal to the Oscar here. I don't know how old Phil is, but he'd probably admit to being 50. He was taking his 4-year-old son about 10 years ago, swimming at a local college down in Los Angeles area. And he'd sit in the stage in the side and said about they're 50 pounds overweight, and little boy's swimming, and coach said, "Did you ever swim?" Phil said, "I used to swim in college." He said, "Why didn't you bring your bathing suit? Get in here, it'll do you good." Well, the kid's getting his lessons. Do you know Phil Goldfine today is in better shape than when he was in his college days, and he swims now anchor for gold medal Olympic swimmers. You see, all things are possible if you understand the law. If you understand the laws of your being. Does it make sense to study it? I think so. He phoned me one day and he said, "Bob, how would you like to go to opening night of Tootsie on Broadway?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like that, Phil." He said, "I'm going to win a Tony." So I flew down to New York, and the two of us went to opening night. And you know something? He's got his Tony. Now, he was the 27th person to win an Oscar, an Emmy, and a Tony. He earns millions of dollars. I've asked him different times, "Phil, how many movies would a producer make in a year?" Oh, he said, "I don't know." He said, "Maybe 1 or 2, maybe every 3 years." He's already made 10 this year. He is one of the busiest producers in Los Angeles. He teaches other people now. He teaches them the same thing I taught him. See, this works for everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a film producer or whether you're a network marketer. It doesn't make any difference what you are. I don't care if you were losing. Nobody could have been losing better than me. I mean, hell, I was unhappy, I was sick, I was broke. I didn't know the war was over. I had been kicked out of school in grade 9 after 2 months. I've always known if I could win, anybody could win. I've always known that. I was losing. I was going the wrong direction at such a rapid clip. Yet I knew when I turned around and could do it, anybody could. In fact, I was talking to classification one time at Kingston Penitentiary. That's maximum security in Canada. And they got me to go in. I said, "Only under my terms I'll go in." So I said, "Anybody that's in there that wants to come and hear me, you got to let them out." Well, I said, "You can't let them all out." And I said, "All of them or none of them, I won't go." Well, I stuck to my guns, and finally they did. Now, there was a guy, Joe Gardner. He's gone now, God bless him, but he turned into a very good friend. Big guy. I mean, physically, he was big. And he had been sentenced to 27 years in penitentiary. He had been in solitary confinement for 7.5 years. That meant he got an hour a day out in the yard by himself. Other than that, he's in a little cell all by himself. 7.5 years. It's a wonder he hadn't gone out of his mind. And he would come to those meetings because I was taking coffee and donuts and cigarettes. I was baiting the hook. You say, what the hell? I mean, whatever it takes, you get him in there. And you know how they have these long tables, like, put stuff on, and he would sit, there would be a table at the back of the room, everybody else was in chairs, and he'd sit in the back and swinging his legs, and this guy'd be drinking coffee, eating donuts, smoking cigarettes. He was like an animal. And I'd say something serious, "Oh, that's about that crap." Everybody was afraid of this guy, including me. And he was really in charge of the meeting. Everybody'd laugh, he'd laugh. I wasn't making any headway. It's 165 miles from Toronto to Kingston. Now, there's no stop lights, no traffic lights. It's just straight highway, so it's not a bad drive. All the way down there, I was scared. I was afraid of this guy. But I also knew that if I continued the way I was going, I might as well quit going there. And I didn't want to do that because I was pretty firm with classification when they let me in. So after about the third time of doing this, I would go once a month. I mustered up all the courage I could driving down there. And I started to teach this class, and right at a serious part, he started to laugh. I just put whatever I had in my hand down. I went back. I stood right in front of him. We were face to face. And I'm going to tell you, that was the bravest moment of my life. I said, "You've got to be the dumbest bastard I've ever met." Well, this guy, you could see his face go red, every muscle in his body tightened up. I thought he was going to kill me. And just as fast as he went like that, all of a sudden he started to laugh. I guess he thought, this guy is really crazy doing that. Now, this all happened in a few milliseconds. I mean, it didn't take a week or something like that. You know, I told him I thought he was crazy. And I followed up by saying, I can tell that screw to open the door. I can go out and get in a car and drive away from here. They're putting you back in a cell for another month. I could show you how to get out of here. Well, he didn't say anything more. He was quiet through that meeting. The next month when I went down, he was sitting in the front row. And if anybody shuffled their feet, he'd look at them. He was like the cop. Do you know, he got out on a special ticket. Now, his wife, he'd been there 7.5 years. His wife had a little girl while he was in there. And, of course, it wasn't his little girl. He had 2 boys. There was a priest, Bobby Cadet, who built a friendship with Joe while he was in there. And he went and arranged, and he got Edie, his wife, to come back with him. He treated that little girl like it was his little girl. When I decided I was going to go and open an office in London, England, in my company, and I went down the parole board. Ignorance, there's a lot to say about ignorance. I'm hammering on the desk, you got no right keeping this guy on parole. Now, he had to report to the city police every week, and the Mounties, the federal police, every month. I said, he's the best guy I've got, I want to take him to England. They tore up his parole, give him his passport, and away he went. Yeah. Now, I'm telling you that for this reason. Phil Goldfine had all his faculties, he just didn't understand the rules for winning. Joe didn't seem to have any of his faculties. He became very, very successful. Phil is very successful. Joe's gone now. I have seen kids in school that were miserable failures. And the parents start teaching them this, they go to A/B average overnight. See, a kid isn't getting a C and D because they're stupid. They're getting a C and D because they got such low self-esteem. They know the answers, they know the material, they don't believe that they can do well. And so they're not going to do well. If we were to teach them something about themselves, help them build a very good image of themselves, they would win and ace their exams. And don't say they wouldn't, because I've seen it happen. Okay? Now, Phil got the Oscar, he got the Emmy, and he got the Tony. He's earned millions of dollars. He's still going like a rocket. And he has no intentions of slowing down. But he does exactly what I tell him. Now, I don't tell him what to eat or what time to go to bed. When the man said to me, when Ray Stanford said to me, do exactly what I tell you, what he meant is, if I tell you to study something, study it. He told me, he said, Napoleon Hill spent almost his whole life putting this book together. He said, I think it would be a prudent move on your part if you spent the rest of your life trying to understand and apply what he put together. So I said, I want you to read that every day. I've read that every day since October the 21st, 1961. Some of you, that was before your grandmother was born. I took a pen. In 1973, I left the Nightingale Konyak Corporation. I was sitting in a room, in a little den, in a house on Maplewood Lane in Glenview, Illinois, and I said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do it. Our company is represented now in 110 countries. Now, I mentioned this, I mentioned Joe, and I mentioned Phil. There's somebody here that maybe has a little low self-esteem. Maybe your self-image isn't as strong as it should be. And so you might be thinking, well, I couldn't do that, I couldn't do that. Listen, you can do anything. No one can even guess at what you're capable of. When the leader says, do this, do it. And don't worry about what your relatives or next door neighbor says. Because they're going to tell you you're being silly, or you got one of those meetings, or you're going to do one of those stupid things. Don't listen to them. I have learned that if you will pick a real good mentor or coach, then do exactly what they tell you. You're going to start winning beyond your wildest dreams. Now, I went from doing that with Ray Stanford. Then I went to work with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. All I wanted to do was work with Earl, and I got Lloyd too, his business partner. He was phenomenal. I mean, those two men, what I learned from them was incredible. I spent 5 years working with them. Another fellow, Lila Van der Waal out in Western Canada. Another guy, Dr. Harry Roeder. These people are all gone today. But what I'm showing you and what I'm going to teach you is what they taught me. I didn't originate any of this information. But I've used it. Yet I never stopped studying it. This company is obviously moving in the right direction. The best positions aren't even open yet. You have no idea where this company's going. Make up your mind that you're going right to the top. Don't fool around with the next pin. Go right to the top. Think like they think. Study what they study. Work like they work. And I guarantee you it'll all fall into place, because that's the way it works. Now, Phil phoned me just a couple of weeks ago. That's a terrible picture, but it was taken with his phone, transferred to my phone, and I took and made a slide off my phone. He told me, he said, about 2 weeks ago, he said, Bob, I'm going to go for another Oscar for the movie Claire. And so he started to tell me, I said, Phil, I'll tell you what to do. Go get a photograph of yourself holding the Oscar in one hand, the one you've got, and then have a photograph taken with the Oscar in the other hand, and then get somebody in Photoshop to take and put it together so that you got one in both hands. Take a picture, carry it with you, stare at it, you put that in your subconscious mind, it has to happen. There's a picture of him holding both trophies. When he keeps burying that in his subjective mind, it has to move into force. See, your subjective mind is universal intelligence. Universal intelligence just works one way. And it's like the earth, it's immoral. It doesn't care what you plant, but it'll return what you plant. Whatever you're getting emotionally involved with is going to materialize in your life. If you're emotionally involved with problems, make book on it, you're going to get more of the same thing. That's where I was living when I met Ray. He said, Bob, every time you catch yourself thinking of what you don't want, stop and think of what you do want. He said, set a goal, put it on a card and carry the card in your pocket. Gold cards are something I've carried now for going on 60 years, 58 years. Now, when you set a goal, what you're doing is you're taking a picture in your mind and you're painting the picture in words. It's like Van Gogh was asked how he did such beautiful work. He said, I dream my painting and then I paint my dream. Write your goal on a card. Carry the card loose in your pocket. Now what happens when I put my hand in my pocket and I touch the card, the sensory factor Touch is affected. It sends a light message, rifle firing through my central nervous system, strikes those cells in my brain. They're activated, and the picture of my goal flashes on my mind. So you see, it's all electronic. You're much like your phone or like your computer. You're in charge, and you can dictate what pictures you want coming on your mind, and that picture must move into form. That's an absolute law. Now, Phil sent me the picture, so I put it up there for you to see. We're only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. That's the only limit we've got. Weakness of attention, got to focus on what it is you want. You've got to give it your undivided attention. And poverty of imagination. Use your imagination to build enormous pictures. See great things happening in your life. Imagine Jenna and Josh sitting when they were first starting. Do you think they could see this room in the Mirage full, thousands of people? That's right. Most people say, oh, they wouldn't see that. They must have, or they wouldn't have it. You wouldn't be here if they hadn't imaged it. What you're seeing is the manifestation of something that was going on in their mind. Now, how did they get this picture? They let it come on the screen of the mind. What pictures are you holding on the screen of your mind? The only limit is weakness of attention and poverty of imagination. Now, attention is drawn through your higher faculty, the will. The will gives you the ability to focus on one idea to the exclusion of all outside distractions, okay? Now, there's two things that you have to know if you really want to live your dream. You have to know where you are, you have to know where you're going, and you got to move in that direction. Now, why are there so many people stuck? Think. If we think about this, it's so simple. Why are so many people stuck? You'll find people right here in this room that are stuck. Well, there's a couple of answers to that. One, you'd say they don't have a goal, and I don't necessarily think that would be the right one, because even though they may not be too articulate with it, they might not have it written on a card that they carry in their pocket, they probably can tell you something they want. They maybe haven't really refined it or written it out, but they're talking about something they want. They would have a goal. It's just not very sophisticated. I think the problem lies down here. This problem right here is where you are. Most people don't know where they are. See if you can relate to this. When I was a kid, my mother would say, "Why'd you do that?" I say, "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know? You know better." "I know." "Well, why'd you do it?" "I don't know." School teachers, "But why'd you do that?" "I don't know." "Well, you know better." "I know." "Well, why'd you do it?" "I don't know." I went in the Navy. Every commanding officer, Proctor, "Yes, sir." "Why'd you do that?" "I don't know, sir." "Hell you talking about you don't know? You know better." "I know." "Why'd you do it?" "I don't know." Now I got married. My wife says, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Drop it right there." Now think, we're doing things we don't want to do, it's giving us results we don't want to get, and we don't know why we're doing it. Think about this. You already know how to do a lot better than you're doing. I know how to do a lot better than I'm doing. Our problem is not that we don't know. We do know. Our problem is in paradigms. We throw that back up there, you know. Look it. Here's the problem right here. It's in paradigms. Now, I want you to ask yourself, don't ask anybody else, if someone asked you to explain exactly what a paradigm is, how well do you think you'd do? Most people wouldn't do very well. If you went and looked up, we know it's to do with the mind, if you went and looked it up in, I don't know, some kind of a book on psychology or behavioral science or psychiatry, you'd get an answer that you probably wouldn't even understand. A paradigm is what's in control of our life to a very large degree. And it's the paradigm that had me doing things I didn't want to do, even though I knew how to do better. My mother didn't know what was wrong, my teachers didn't know what was wrong, and the commanding officers I had in the Navy, they did not know why. They would say, "Proctor, why'd you do that?" "I don't know, sir." Well, you know better. They didn't know that there was a paradigm in control of me. I didn't know it. And so I got in trouble for doing something I knew better, but I did it anyway. Everybody in this room that's been into the company for even a short length of time, you already know how to do better than you're doing. That is not our problem. My income went from $4,000 to $175 almost overnight. It wasn't that I didn't know how. I did know how. I wasn't doing what I knew. That's the problem that keep people stuck. If we go back to the screen. Now look. Back that up. Went way too fast there. How'd that happen? We say the paradigm is a huge problem for almost everyone. That is for your leaders. That's for Jen and Josh. That's for Bob. That's for the person next to you. It's for your parents. It's for everyone. Now let's take a look at what a paradigm is. A paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. Now think, a paradigm is a program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And get this, almost all of our behavior is habitual. Now don't take my word for this and just listen to it as a talk that you're getting at a convention. Stop and think, if you're living with someone, what do they do when they get up in the morning? There's a pattern, there's a routine that they fall into. You could almost write a book on it. And if you're living with someone, you don't mess with their routine in the morning. They just quiet and get moving. He pours the coffee, she pours the coffee, but there's a routine. And it's exact almost. Well, that's the same with our life. You can almost write a book on what we do. Now let's take a look at the areas of your life that paradigm is in control of. Now it would be really wise to pay very close attention here because this is super important. Paradigms control your perception. Perception is a mental faculty. Animals do not have perception, humans do. Perception is one of the higher faculties that we've got. If I have a particular challenge that I'm faced with, I have an exercise that helps me shift my perception. It helps me change how I look at something. I will take and write the problem down in as much detail as I can, and so clear that if I were to give it to somebody else, they would see exactly what I see. So I get the picture in my mind, I paint it with words. I will take that written out, and if you try this, you'll find it'll work like unadulterated magic. Put it in the center of your desk or a table. I do it in my studio, or I'll do it in my dining room. And I'll get and sit down and I'll look at it. Then I'll say, now is that problem in me or is it in the paper? I will work at getting it out of me and getting it on the paper. So I'm not going to relate to it as something that's in control of me. When I get it on the paper, then I'll look at it until I think I understand it. Then I'll go and sit on the other side of the table, literally, physically get up and go and move. And I'll look at it and I'll say, how would Earl Nightingale look at that? And mentally I'll play with that for a bit. Then I'll go sit somebody else and I'll say, how would Napoleon Hill look at that? Now these people don't have to be alive. Okay? If you've studied them, you know their energy. And how would he look? And you go sit somewhere else. And I may move around the table to half a dozen places. How would they look at that? And you know something? Pretty soon that problem's not a problem at all. I not only solved it, it's become fairly simple to solve. Perception is a mental faculty. Yet it's being controlled by your paradigm. Yet controls how you look at things. When you go to talk to a person about your opportunity, understand they've got a paradigm and they are controlled how they're going to see your industry. Most people don't understand your industry. They really don't. You think they do because they've heard it, but they don't understand it at all. I'll tell you a good exercise. Ask them when they say, no, they don't really like it. Say, could you explain it to me? Ask them if they can explain how your company works. And they probably can't. Then say, you know, I learned something really valuable. Anything we don't understand, we have a tendency to criticize and ridicule. Now think of that, because that's true. Your paradigm controls your use of time. Do you know that every one of us get exactly the same amount of time? We get all there is. No one gets any more than anyone else. Your paradigm controls everything. It also controls your creativity. You'll see some people are not creative and others are. That's not true. Everybody's creative. You're created in God's image. Our problem is we got that reversed and we created God in our image. You are a creative being. You are truly a creative being. You can take these higher faculties that all the other forms of life don't have, and you can create something. This company is a creation. It's the manifestation of an image. Your paradigm controls your effectiveness because it controls what you do, how you do it. Yet, of course, your effectiveness is going to dictate your productivity. How productive are you? Now, some people, you just watch them, they just ratchet ahead. They don't really work very hard, but man, do they move. They're going at warp speed. Now, get this. Your paradigm controls your logic. This is huge. You'll have people say, well, you've got to be realistic. Or they could say, that's illogical. Wonder what the neighbors thought of the Wright brothers, a couple of bicycle mechanics over in Dayton, Ohio. A little over 100 years ago. They must have been considered right out of their mind. Do you know their father was a bishop in some Reformed church? He told them they were going to burn in hell for suggesting they could fly. True. Now think. How often does logic stop you? Well, that's not realistic. If you can think it, you can do it. When you think. And of course, it controls your ability to earn money. You see, one of the first things I'll ask, as I mentioned, is what's the most you've ever earned in a year? I don't really care what the answer is, but I want to know the answer. I will get a read on you just like that, where your paradigm's at. Now, if you're sitting down with somebody, the most they've ever earned is about $45,000 a year, I would recommend you don't start to talk to them about earning $1 million in a hurry, because you're going to lose them right away. See, if you're earning more, what's something you really like, you know? Maybe talk about a car or a trip or something that they could relate to. But you see, most people really don't understand money. All the money in the world is available to us. All we have to do is earn it. And working happens to be the very worst way to earn money. It's true. Listen, this guy studied 500 of the world's most successful people. And he pointed out in here, if you believe that hard work and honesty alone will bring riches, perish the thought it's not true. Riches, when they come in huge quantities, are never the result of hard work. Riches come, if they come at all, in response to definite demands based upon the application of definite principles and not by chance or luck. That's all by law. There is no end to what you can earn. None. Now, paradigms keeps you boxed in all of those areas. It's just like there's a box around us. And every time we go to change, we hit the wall. And it doesn't happen. When you make up your mind, you're going to change the paradigm, the wall comes down. But I'm going to tell you something. That doesn't mean you're going to change right away. You make a decision, I'm changing this, that wall will come down. Then you'll be in a position to start moving, and the wall is down. You're not bouncing off it anymore. When you say, I'm going to change this, now someone in here today, hopefully everybody, is going to make a decision, I'm changing that. This conference is going to be a turning point in my life. Now think, you spent money and you took time. Some of you traveled a long way. Make certain this is a turning point. And when you say, I'm going to change, just think of this. The change can be huge, absolutely huge. And the change is permanent. You will never go back. You see, awareness is something you cannot lose. Most of us, when we're thinking of learning, we get hooked up on school stuff, and it's the intellect we're thinking of. Because that's what school focuses on, the intellect. If you get the degree, you've learned it. If you get this, you've learned it. Why are there so many people with degrees come right off their business card that don't know the war's over? They're losing. That's not in the intellect, it's in the awareness. Think of this. A person isn't earning $100,000 a year because they want $100,000 a year. They're earning $100,000 a year because they're not aware of how to earn $100,000 a month. When you help develop their awareness, it's something they won't lose. Like a baby is not aware of the difference between a woman and a man. Baby's not aware of the difference in a female and a male. That is something a baby has to become aware. They have to learn that. And when the baby develops the awareness, they never lose it. That'll help you understand the difference between awareness and intellect. When you become aware of how your paradigm is controlling you, and then how to change it, there's no end to where you can go or what you can do. None. Now, let's suppose that's the only thing you change as a result of this conference. You're going to change your perception of this business. You're going to change your perception of you in this business. You're never going to look at this company and your position in it the same way again. You're going to see this as a vehicle that will take you anywhere you want to go, and there's nothing can stop you. Do you know about 66% of what I'm saying you will have forgotten by tomorrow morning? It's true. 90 to 100% you'll probably leave within a month. That's the way our memory works. Can you learn it? Absolutely you can. If you don't remember anything, remember this. Change your perception. Change the way you look at this business. And don't listen to anybody that's telling you something about this business that is an already leader in the business, earning themselves millions. Okay? I was on the fire department when I started to study this. It was the best job I'd ever had. I was earning $100 a week, $400 a month. When I got that job, I was earning $48 a week working in a service station, changing tires, filling up gas, greasing cars. And I went from earning $50 a week to $100 a week. And then I get into that book. And I decided I was going to quit the fire department. I was the second person since 1934 to quit that fire department. Nobody ever quit. And they couldn't fire you. The chief every day would call me and he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to clean offices. He said, Bob, you're crazy. No. Well, you know, you can't come back when you quit. You can't come back. I said, I know. Well, he said, why are you doing this? Well, I said, I've got a dream. I'm reading a book and it's teaching me how to do stuff. Let me tell you the bizarre part of this. I started cleaning one office, $15 a time to wash the floor. Then I got another office, $65 a month. Now I'm up to $100 a month. Do you know, I got it up that I was earning $14,500 a month, and I was afraid to quit the fire department. The chief was only earning $11,500 a year. I was earning $14,500 a month. Yet I was afraid to quit. Part of the paradigm was there's security in this job. There's no security in a job. There's no security outside of yourself. If you haven't got it inside, you haven't got it. In less than 5 years, I was cleaning offices in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. I was earning a lot of money, well over $1 million a year. They all thought I was crazy when I quit. But when I got it up over $1 million, they didn't think I was so crazy anymore. When you do what you're doing, your friends, relatives, they're going to think you're crazy. You cannot afford to listen to them. They mean well. They really do. They want to help you. They don't want to hurt you. But they're trying to talk you out of what you're doing because they don't understand it. When you change your perception, your income will change dramatically. And you know something? It'll never go back. So basic and so misunderstood. The truth is, you truly can create your own economy. You don't have to depend on what the government's doing. Don't be too concerned what they're saying. What they're saying today is going to be what they're saying tomorrow. Listen, during the Great Depression of the 30s, there was people earning millions of dollars. Yet in the very worst economy, there's people earning millions of dollars. Yet in the very best economy, there's people that don't know how to get out of bed. They're losing. It's inside. It's in your attitude. It's in your way of thinking. It's your perception of this business. Build it big in your mind and then go and execute it. It's so basic and so simple. We miss it. To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm. And if you're not willing and able to change your paradigm, forget it. You're not going to go very far. Now, Ray sat down with me and he said, Bob, let that R represent results. Then he said, let that represent happiness, health, and wealth. Then he asked me if I thought he was a happy guy, and I said, yeah, he seemed pretty happy to me, and he did. He's a great, big, happy guy. He said, have you ever seen me when I was sick? And I had to admit I hadn't. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broke? And again, I had to admit I hadn't. Well, he proceeded to tell me he thought I was one of the most miserable people he had ever met. And he said, you're always sick. You don't have a terminal illness, but you always got something wrong with you. And he said, you're always broke. Now, he was being kind. I was actually earning $4,000 a year, as I mentioned, but I owed $6,000. So, I mean, it was like an impossible situation. I just couldn't see my way out of it. He said, do you ever read anything? Now, I heard Jenna in a recording say that leaders are readers. And I've heard that before. Remember Charlie Tremendous Jones? He's gone now, but he was a great speaker. That's what he used to always say. And that's when Ray introduced me to this book. Then he told me the story about the book. And it's a pretty interesting story. And he said, if you'll study that, there's no end to what you can do. Absolutely none. I said, I don't expect you to understand what I'm telling you. But he said, listen, my way's working, yours isn't. I think that's the first time he really reached me. He said, my way's working, yours isn't. This guy always had a roll of money on him. Now, that's all I was interested in, was getting some money. I figured if I had some money, all my problems would go away. Because everybody's phoning me, where the hell's the money? You know, and I thought if I knew where the money was, you wouldn't have to phone me. Well, within a year, I was earning $14,500 a month. Now, if you annualize that, that's $175. I hadn't earned $175, but I was earning $14,500 a month in 1 year, from $4,000 to that. You can do that in this business. You can do that starting today. You really can. Everybody knows that. In less than 5 years, I had that over $1 million. Now here's the real crazy part. If you asked me what I was doing, I couldn't have told you. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Do you know that most people that are really successful, they don't know why they're successful? They really can't. They cannot articulate why they are. They're what you call unconscious competence. They're very good, but they can't really articulate why they are. Unfortunately, that means they can't even transfer that to their kids. Not a good place to be. You see, I was in England. I had all this money. I didn't care what I did because I knew where the money was. I'd just go get some more. And I go down to Playboy on Park Lane, right beside the London Hilton, and I'd play roulette. I didn't care if I lost. I knew how to get more. And one day, it dawned on me that I wasn't being very responsible. And then I started to think, what happened to me? How did this change? Because over a short period of time, I went from having nothing and having almost everything. And I couldn't tell you. I'd been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you got to be really smart. I knew I wasn't very smart. I knew that. I had a very limited vocabulary. If you used a word I didn't understand, I'd have to get a dictionary out and find out what you meant. And I thought, how did I change? I'd been raised to believe if you don't go to school, you can't get a good job. I didn't have a good job. I owned the whole company. And I thought, I should figure out what happened to me. Because it happened fairly fast, just poof, 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 poof. And you know, I couldn't find anybody who could teach me. They couldn't tell me what happened. So I started to study. Do you know, it took me 9.5 years to find out why Bob changed. I was Bob, why I changed. My life had changed. And when I found out it was so simple, I could understand why I was missing it. And I made up my mind when I figured it out, I was going to spend the rest of my life teaching this. Because I thought there's so many people don't know. And they don't even know they don't know. I left my own company. I went to Chicago and I got a job with the Nightingale Conant Corporation because I wanted to work with Earl. I wanted to study him. I took a job for $18,000 a year. That's a long ways down from $1 million plus. 3 years later, I was earning $33,000. But you see, I was prepared to pay them to let me work there. I just wanted to find out what they knew. I knew they knew. And you know what I found out? It's so basic. It was the repetition of listening to the records. We had records then. If you were to visit my studio in Toronto, I have a beautiful bookshelf and library, and on one of the shelves is a small handheld record player. And I would drive around listening to these records. I got so addicted to listening to them, I had never heard anybody talk like this. It made me feel so good. It was incredible. Now, to boot, the guy had a phenomenal voice. I used to think if God had a voice, you know, it would be Earl, because he had great pipes. And it was the repetition of listening. That defies intellect. You see here, school, they give you the book, you read the book. They ask you questions, you put it aside, get another book. And they think you know this. You don't know it at all. You just remembered some stuff in it and you answered questions. That is not learning. That's gathering information. That's not learning. Learning is when you consciously entertain an idea. You get emotionally involved in that idea. You act on the idea and you change the end result. It's the feedback from the change in result that's a learning experience. You're learning how to earn money here. You're learning how to inspire other people to live the way they want to live. That's what you're teaching people. And that's what you want to remember. This is so important. School doesn't teach it. The church is not teaching it. It's not being taught in home. This is vitally important. It's our life, for God's sake. It's our life. Most people live and die and they never learn how to live. Well, that book sure changed everything for me. And I'd like to lead you to the path that this book kept me on for the last 58 years. And I believe that my daily choice is taking you there. Oh, I do. I have an assistant, Gina, who has worked with me for 33 years. She and her husband, my wife and I, are all good friends. 33 years. Gina's just a phenomenal person to work with. She takes care of everything for me. She and I went over to the office here in Vegas and met with Josh and Jenna. When I left there, I said, you know something? I don't think the people in this company even realize what they've gotten these two. No, I do. Listen, they've got inside of them something that you can't buy. But you can get it because it's built into the seam of this company. Now look at, build a big goal. Build a goal that inspires you every night when you go to bed. It fills your mind when you wake up in the morning. And understand this, if you can think it, my daily choice will help you get it. Your spiritual DNA is perfect. Back that up. You know what that means? It means there's perfection within every one of us. There's perfection within every one of us. Yet doesn't require any modification or any improvement. Absolutely none. There is perfection within you. And that perfection seeks expression within through you. That's what causes you to want. My grandmother pretty well raised me. And I'm going to tell you something, Grandma was wrong on this score because she said you should be satisfied with what you've got. Grandma was wrong. Never. You should never be satisfied with what you've got. You should be happy with it. Dissatisfaction is a creative state. Dissatisfaction is going to get you to reach higher, go further, run faster. Dissatisfaction is a creative state. It's the spiritual essence within us seeking expression through us. See, there's perfection within us, and it wants to express itself within through us. That's why you want. You want a Lamborghini. You want to buy the whole building. Whatever you want. Understand this. Everything you own when you die belongs to somebody else. You never own anything. You're merely a custodian. You should have it, and you should enjoy it, but you never own it. But what you are is yours forever. That's why we want to develop a greater awareness. We want to become aware of this perfection within us. Spirit's all-knowing. You know what that means? All the knowledge there ever was or ever will be is omnipresent. All the knowledge there ever was. The way to build a cell phone has always been here. All the power. You'll wonder, where does she get all the energy? Where does he get? Nobody gets energy. Everybody releases energy. Desire, it's a triggering message. Lets it go. I'll be 86 on my next birthday. I got more energy than most people, 26. Okay? Now listen. Your age has got nothing to do with it. It's what you're thinking. All the power there ever was or ever will be. Quit saying, oh, I'm tired, I don't know where you get all the energy. You've already got it. Release it. Desire. Desire is the triggering mechanism, and it doesn't matter where you are because it's omnipresent. See, when you're underwater, you can think. I worked with Captain Mitchell, Edgar Mitchell. He was captain of the lunar landing module on one of the Apollo flights. He was doing thought transference exercises with the other side of the moon, with Sherman and Ford here in southern United States. We're connected to everything. Everything's connected to us. There is only one power. And that's the real you. Are you truly who you pretend to be? Come on. Wake up, get out and make it happen. Now, some of you have seen this on a slide. I'm going to look at the mind and look at paradigms. But let's get more personal. Let's make it your mind and your paradigm. Now, there was a doctor in San Antonio, Texas, the year I was born, 1934. God, it seems like yesterday. It was a minute ago. And he was very involved in the healing arts. He was very involved with the mind. And he thought it was appalling the way we treated people. Like Emerson said, the doctor of the future will use no medicine. You use energy medicine. If we want more light, we just have to put in bigger bulbs. Get a bigger transformer. The only limit placed on electricity is the limit that's placed on the form through which it's flowing. Do you know nobody even knows what electricity is? All we know is the laws by which it operates. Well, the only limit placed on that power is the limit that's placed on the form through which it's flowing. The only limit that's placed on this power is the limit that's placed on the form through which it's flowing. There's no limit to what you can do, absolutely none. And he said everything works from the mind down. You work from a higher to a lower potential. You don't raise morale, it filters down from the top. So he said, the problem is nobody's ever seen the mind, so he said, I'm going to draw a picture of the mind. And he said, I want you to let this represent the mind. He says, that's the conscious, that's the subconscious, and that's the body. He says, the body's the instrument of the mind. Now, without question, in all the years I've studied, this is the most valuable idea I have ever learned. And I'll never forget the day I learned it. A man named Neelan Valvandiwal, a great big man from Western Canada. He sat down with me one day, and I'd done a lot of studying. I mean, I had a ton of knowledge. And it was like I had all the pieces for the puzzle laid out on a big table. But I couldn't get them to fit. I didn't have the lid for the box. And I just couldn't get some of this information to connect with other information. And when he put this drawing in front of me, it was like that, all this information came together. And I had an awareness that was just absolutely unreal. This drawing is worth its weight in gold. Now let's look at it. There's the conscious, subconscious, and the body. Now the conscious mind is your thinking mind. If I were to sit down with you, if I were working with you or selling you, that's what you would look like. You would look like that drawing, and I did an imaginary line right across the center of your head. And I could shock you with how much I know about you, because everything on the inside showing up on the outside. See, that instrument you're living in is a mass of molecules, and it casts off a ray of energy. Well, you get a mental faculty that can read that energy, so you know what the person's like. That's your thinking mind. It's also called the educated mind. And it's where the intellect is resident. Now, it's the intellect that separates us from our pets. I get a couple little dogs at home that can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, but they cannot think. Although at times, if this one started to talk to me, I wouldn't be surprised. All right. Now listen, the subconscious is your emotional mind. It operates totally different than the conscious mind. I would imagine many of you have Dr. Joseph Murphy's book, The Power of the Subconscious. It's probably one of the best books on the subconscious mind that's been written, but it doesn't have a picture of the mind. And so you could be, a little mixed up. You study this and then go and study Murphy's book and you'll really get something out of it. Now look at the conscious mind, you have the ability to choose. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, he was a Jewish psychiatrist, spent the war years in a German concentration camp, and he said while he was in that camp, regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. That was his choice. Yet we've got the ability to accept or reject whatever we hear. All that stuff on television, the radio, and the newspapers, reject it if you don't like it. Just don't spend any time thinking about it. Because what was there today will be gone tomorrow. You have the ability to accept or reject anything. And if you reject it, then you can go ahead and you can originate whatever you want. Now, your subconscious mind does not have that ability. Your subconscious mind must accept whatever you give to it. It's like the earth. It's immoral. It doesn't care what you plant, but it'll accept it because it gives no ability to reject it. And this is a part that you really want to learn. The subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. If you start to imagine something bad, you will start feeling bad. If you imagine something good, you'll start feeling good. Your subconscious mind just accepts what you give to it. It cannot tell the difference. Will mentally see yourself as the leader you want to be. This is where I'm going. That's what I'm going to earn. That's how I'm going to act. And don't worry about the people that are laughing, saying, who do you think you are? Say, I don't think who I am. I know damn well who I am. You see? Now, with that in mind, let's look. That's information that's as accurate as you'll find, and it's valuable information. Let's look here. Here we are. We're being inundated with information today. This is us today. And we're getting bombarded with all kinds of information. Because we have a reasoning factor in our conscious mind, we have the ability to think. It's with reason that we think. Now, we have the ability to tell all that stuff on the radio, TV, newspapers. We have the ability to tell it, just get out of town. Get out of here. But we don't do that. We let it play. We not only let it play, we let it go right into our subconscious mind because we leave our mind wide open. Remember what I said, the subconscious cannot reject, and all that stuff's going right in. That's our emotional mind. Why would we do that? We've been programmed to do it. That's part of what we call the paradigm. How did that happen? I'll tell you exactly how it happened. Let's close the window on that for a minute and go over here. This is us as infants. Anybody's got a little baby, this is the way the baby arrives. The baby's mind is wide open, and whatever's going on around that baby will go right into that baby's subconscious mind. And it keeps going in. Whatever those people are saying or doing is going right into that baby's subconscious mind. That baby will grow up speaking the language of the people it's surrounded by. If you took the baby out of an English-speaking home here and put him in the suburbs of Beijing, that baby'd grow up fluent in Chinese. No knowledge of the English language. Almost all welfare recipients are 4th, 5th generation welfare recipients. That's why. If the parents don't go to school, the kids won't go to school. No one in our family ever went to school. I only changed one question. They said to me, are you going? No, hell, I'm out of here. I didn't want to go. I just didn't ask my kids if they were going to go. I asked them where they were going to go. Just change one question. And you change the whole breed. You see? Now look, over and over that information is coming in. It's being dumped into your subconscious mind. That's how a self-image is formed. You bring people into your business and you know they've got low self-esteem. You can tell by the way they talk, the way they dress, the way they look at you and act. Help them build a self-image. Help them understand who they are. Way back in the 60s, there was an author, Robert Heinlein, and he wrote a book called Strangers in a Strange Land. He said, in absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it. That's what happens to most kids. They're enslaved by daily trivia because that's all they're surrounded by. That's what's dumped into their mind. And that's how the paradigm is formed. And here we are here. That's, you like the food you have, the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you meet, greet people. That's the way we are here 40, 50, 75 years later. It's just a program. And it's rather sad. Now let's take a look. There's a baby. A brand new baby. Now here's the graphic illustration of the baby, just the subconscious mind, because that's how a baby arrives on the scene. You see? Baby arrives, and that's like the baby that's arriving. Okay? Now, what's going on? Whatever's going on around that baby goes right into that baby's subconscious mind. And that baby becomes a product of its environment. And that is where the paradigm is formed. That's where the self-image is formed. And of course, the paradigm. Then the conscious faculties at a certain age begin to develop. And they develop their senses. They start to hear, see, smell, taste, touch. You watch a baby, you'll see the hand going fast to his face and they're watching it. Like, I just wonder, where'd that come from, you know? Well, a brand new baby, it's sort of fun watching the baby become aware, right? Well, here's what we want to understand. The conscious mind is also the intellectual mind, and here's the higher faculties: perception, will, imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. Do you know there's no such thing as a bad memory? Everybody's got a perfect memory. Well, we have all these higher faculties. What we want to do is learn how to use them. Now, as we start to learn how to use these, everything in our life changes. Now, at a very early age, we start to go to school. And what happens in school? Well, we don't learn what we should. What did Einstein say? The intuitive mind is a sacred gift. Well, the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Now, here's your higher faculties. You've got your perception, get this flipper working properly, your memory, imagination, reason, intuition, and the will. These are like mental tools. As you develop these, you take control over your life. They're phenomenal tools. I've been working at those now for over 50 years. Here's the child going to school. Let's take a look. Okay? We get valuable knowledge in school, however, they taught us nothing about paradigms. So you got people that know how to do things, but they don't do it. Why? Superior knowledge, inferior results, and they get confused and frustrated. Now here's the model of the child. They've gone to school and they've gathered a ton of information, but the results don't match the information. Now you have relatives, you have friends who are absolutely brilliant, but the results would indicate that they don't know very much. And that causes a lot of frustration in the person's life, but it also causes a lot of frustration in their life. They're thinking, how come I see Harry and Betty, they're doing great, and they're not even very bright. They didn't even go to school, and they're earning millions. What happened? How come? Well, you see, it's the paradigm that controls the results, not the knowledge that you've got. You can have the knowledge. There's people in your business that have all kinds of knowledge. They really study network marketing. They have studied it. They understand multi-level network. They understand it. They can explain it. They can give you a talk. It'll blow your mind how much they know, but they don't do anything. There's a lot of people around this industry, been in it for years. They're not doing anything. What's the matter? They're following the same pattern school laid down for them. Yet they can talk well. If they got all this information, they figure they've got it. They haven't got it at all. Look at, if you're going to change your results, you've got to change the paradigm. It's absolutely essential. And how do you change the paradigm? It's repetition of information. So look, this is you. Here's your mind, your body. There's your conscious mind, subconscious. And you've got all these higher faculties. We know that. And they're like little antennae. But we've also got these other faculties called our conscious mind, our intellect. And we want to learn how to utilize those. And most people don't know how they work. They don't know how. And yet it's with those higher faculties that you control your emotional state. You also control the results you're getting. And it's rather sad most people don't know that. They just don't know it. And that is because that's the way we've been raised. No knowledge of these higher faculties. We go by what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch. So we look at the report card and we go by what the report card says. You know what the report card's telling you? It tells you where your mind was at a few minutes, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's got absolutely nothing to do with your potential. Nothing. Why would we let that guide us? Because we've been programmed to. Now, this is a black and white deal. It doesn't matter how hard you work, how many hours you put in. If the paradigm doesn't change, the results ultimately remain much the same from one year to the next. And you'll see that happen in your company. You'll see it happen in your family. You'll see it happen in your social circles. People, nothing changes very much. That's rather sad. When paradigms stay in control, nothing changes. So if you're having difficulty really making it happen, understand it's the paradigm where the problem is. It is the paradigm. It's the conditioning in our subconscious mind. The more we learn about that, the more we take control over our life. Now, I'm going to share with you an idea that I learned from studying Think and Grow Rich, and it's the most valuable idea I've ever learned in all the years I've studied this. Just one idea from this chapter is responsible for me earning literally millions of dollars. And I think it'll work for anyone. You see, Jenna mentioned it earlier, Andrew Carnegie in 1908 was the wealthiest man in the world. He thought it was an absolute crime that people like himself, like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison, were going to their grave with all the knowledge they had locked up in their bones. You see, Carnegie came over from Scotland to America as a young boy with his parents. They had nothing. They started out with nothing. But by 1908, he was the wealthiest man in the world. Napoleon Hill was a young guy in his 20s working for a little magazine, and they got a project where they were going to interview wealthy people. He got the opportunity of spending 3 hours with the wealthiest guy in the world. So he got 3 hours with Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie spent 3 hours, and what Hill didn't know is Carnegie was looking for someone that could take all this knowledge and organize it. Because he says, it's a shame we're all going to our grave with this locked up in us. And so he had been looking for someone that could organize all this information, and he thought maybe Hill was the guy. So at the end of the 3 hours, he said, Napoleon, this meeting isn't ending, it's just beginning. I want you to come home with me. Hill later wrote that he was glad he took him home because he said he didn't have enough money to rent a hotel room. So here he is, a young reporter going home with the wealthiest guy in the world. Carnegie spent 3 days talking to him, explained his whole philosophy. At the end of the 3 days, he says, Napoleon, I'm going to ask you a question. And I just want a yes or a no answer. He said, would you dedicate the rest of your life to an idea for which you would probably receive no material compensation for at least 20 years? I've asked myself that question so many times. What would I have done if I was him? And I think I would have said yes. I think if I had spent 3 days with this guy, I think you'd get a read on him. You'd realize that he's not going to, he's going to be a square shooter. So Hill said, yes, he would. Now he said, Napoleon, I just want a yes or a no answer. He had a stopwatch in his hand under a desk. And he said, would you dedicate the rest of your life to an idea which will probably receive no material compensation for 20 years? In 25 seconds, Hill said, yes, I will. 25 seconds. In this book, Hill wrote a whole chapter on decision. It's the longest chapter in the book. He had to make a decision that was going to change the course of his life. And he did it in 25 seconds. After they spent some time together, Carnegie said, now, Napoleon, everything in you is going to want to quit. If you're new here in my daily choice, long before you get to the top, everything in you is going to want to quit. If you're relatively new, you will have days when every part of you wants to quit. So I said, I'm going to give you an affirmation. Now, I want you to write this down. I want you to underline every word. Now, he says, you're going to be talking to yourself, Napoleon. And this is what he asked him to write down. Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, I'm going to meet you at the post and pass you at the grandstand. Hill said he threw his pencil on the floor and he said, John, you know darn well that's not going to happen. And Carnegie said, yes, I know it's not, Napoleon, unless and until you properly plant that in your subconscious mind. So he said, I want you to make me a commitment that every morning and every night you'll look in the mirror repeating that, talking to yourself. And I want you to do that for 30 days. And Hill said, well, I can do that. So he made a commitment to do that. Now he went home and he had made a commitment to his brother that he was going to finance him through college. He was living with his brother and he wasn't going to be able to do that. And he said he couldn't tell his brother. He just took on a task where he's going to work 20 years for nothing. And Carnegie told him he's not going to subsidize him. He's going to have to find his own way. So it wasn't easy for him. Yet the first day, he went in the bathroom and he closed the door and he looked in the mirror and he whispered it. Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, I'm going to pass you, meet you at the post and pass you at the grandstand. And he did that every morning and every night. And he said he felt like a darn fool. He thought this isn't going to happen, but he made a commitment he would do that, so he did it. By the middle of the month, he thought maybe it would happen. By the end of the month, he knew it was going to happen. I've done a lot of research on Carnegie. I've read where he made about 50 millionaires. Napoleon Hill has made millions of millionaires. Literally. Now, Carnegie introduced him to all of the world's leaders. He became intimate friends with Henry Ford, with Edison, with Firestone, presidency, everybody. He interviewed them, and he put together all this information. And he wrote the Laws of Achievement. From the Laws of Achievement came that book. So do you see, the man that gave me the book, he said, Bob, you get the best of thinking of 500 of the world's most successful people. There was a commonality in their thinking, in their mode of operation. And he said, that's why you win. Now this is where he's got it here. Look what he says. He points out here, analysis of several hundred people who had accumulated fortunes well beyond the $1 million mark disclosed the fact that every one of them had the habit of reaching decisions promptly and of changing those decisions slowly if and when they were changed. People that don't have any much success, they change their decisions, make them very slow, and change them fast and often. See, it's such a difference, such a big difference. Now, I'm going to show you something about decision that I think this is worth its weight in gold, so I would really think about this. Let these lines, again, represent levels of vibration. Levels of vibration are referred to as frequencies, and we think on frequencies. So we let these puffy little clouds represent our thoughts, and it's our thoughts that produce the results we're getting. This is a very valuable lesson right here. Everybody's getting results. They may be different all over the place, but we've all got results. Then we sit and we dream and we say, that's where I want to go, and I'm going to go there as soon as I get the money. I'm going to buy that car as soon as these people start producing. We're always going to change the result. We're going to get the dream when the results change, but what they don't understand is that the results are based on their thinking. Pretty soon the decision fades, and then pretty good, the dream fades too. Now you see that happen with people all the time. Now let's think about this for a moment. What's the problem? Well, the problem is the mind and thoughts are down here on this frequency. And the goal is way up here on this higher frequency, you see? The mind and the thoughts have to operate in the same frequency as the goal. Now that would be like me trying to phone you and I dial my sister's number. I'm not going to get you. Not when I'm dialing my sister's number. Well, if you're down here in the lower frequency and you're trying to get something from the higher, you're not going to get it. That's like trying to get FM music on an AM band. You won't get it. People don't understand this. And they think, well, you've got to know how. You've got to know where the money comes from. No, you don't. No, you don't. You only have to know that you're going. And you've got to say, I am doing this. I'm going there. I'm making a committed decision. When you're committed, you do it regardless. Now, I don't know Jenna and Josh that well, but I know them well enough. They don't have to know how to do it to commit to do it. And the second you say, I'm going to do that, you start to think and act like the person you want to become. Look what happened. You got rid of the lower way of thinking, and you instantly start thinking on a higher frequency. You see, as long as you're down here on this frequency, you're never going to get what's up there. You've got to get your mind onto a higher frequency. You've got to think and act like the person you want to become. Every book tells you that. Every great leader, you've got to act like the person you want to become. This is not a kid's game. This is something where you can write your own ticket. You can earn whatever you want to earn. You can live where you want to live. Go where you want to go. The only prerequisite for making a decision is you want to. That's it. Now, I'm going to tell you, that's a long ways removed from where most people live. Well, you got to know where the money's coming from. You got to know how you're going to do it. You got to know where you're going to get the people. You got to know how they're going to do this. Well, no, you don't got to know any of that stuff. You just got to know where you're going. And you got to know you're going to get there. You see, want is the only prerequisite. This is the reason successful people make decisions so fast. They don't fool around. They make decisions fast. And they're the winners. Now, they seem a little reckless at times to the real organized, analytical, get the slide rule out and figure out how that house is going to get paid for, When Dr. Wernher von Braun was asked by John Kennedy what would it take to build a rocket that would carry a man to the moon, bring him back safely to Earth, he answered in 5 words: the will to do it. That's it, the will to do it. What will it take you to get to where you want to go? The will to do it. You see, the will is the ability to hold one idea on the screen of the mind. And if you do that, everything else will follow. You get on that frequency, and then you're going to attract whatever is required for the manifestation of that picture. Most people do not understand that. So they've got to know where the money's coming from. And the truth is, you don't. See, when the chief asked me, Bob, do you know what you're doing? I said, I know what I'm doing. I really didn't. I was scared. But I had this dream in my mind. I saw myself building this building maintenance company. I had some buckets and mops and a contract, and that's about all. But pretty soon, I was in 7 different cities in 3 countries, and I was earning a fortune. That's all you need. There's Kennedy out talking to von Braun. And what did he say when he asked him? He said, the will to do it. That's all you required. That's all you require to get to where you want to go. Now, that was a big move. That was, how do we get to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth? It's a pretty big idea. Decision must be committed decision. This is a wonderful place to make big decisions. You will never in a long time, maybe never in your life, get into energy like in this room. You won't. Just stop and think of the amount of money and the time and the planning that's gone into what's going on here in this room. And you're in it. Make decisions in here that's going to last you a lifetime. Now, if you really want to execute your decision, you've got to have discipline. This is something I learned from my first mentor, and it's worth its weight in gold. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. This I will do. Then do it. Don't whine, don't complain, don't blame conditions or circumstance. Do it. And if you're having a problem, go look in the mirror. You want to control the flow of thought energy that's coming through and to us. It's coming to and through us. Now, we talked about this a few minutes ago. You are a mass of energy on a very high frequency. No one knows what you're capable of doing. There is no one alive that knows what you're capable of doing. I remember when we were building a cleaning business, we got the idea we'll put a supervisor on the road and we'll get him a car phone. We had to put ski racks in the top of his car to mount an aerial so that his phone would work. Then there was only a half a dozen channels in the entire city, so it was always garbled. Somebody else was always on the channel. Do you know why we had that? Because we didn't know how to do what we do today. Today we know there's an infinite number of frequencies. Everybody has a phone, has their own frequency. There's an infinite, not millions, infinite number of frequencies. Energy operates on frequencies. When you're thinking, make sure you know what you're thinking. Now look it. We say a frequency is a level of vibration. There are literally an infinite number of frequencies. Now stay with me here. Every frequency is hooked up to the one above and the one below. Now, I don't know what kind of a deep thinker you might be, but you know what that means? That means that every one of us are connected. Everything in the universe is connected. What we call space here is not space. It's energy. If we sealed this whole room up airtight and start pumping more air into it, more of this no thing, you'd blow the walls out. What you can't see is powerful. Now let's look at this. Let that X represent where you are in your life. X is just the unknown factor. Now get serious about this for a few minutes. Let that X represent where you are. Take an honest look at where you are in your life, and you can see how you got here. If you don't like it, that's okay. If you do like it, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. This is where you are. We can look backwards at how we got here. And it's all there in front of us. All those different lines, they're levels of awareness that we've moved through. Do you remember you did this and that happened, then you moved here, and then you met her, or he met her, she met him, and our lives start to change. You'll see how you got here. Now this is where you are, but you'll say, that's where I want to go. Now think, really stay with me here. This is so important. This is where you are, but say, that's where I want to go. And you have no idea how to get there, and you let the dream fade. Realize you can go there. You just don't know how. Kennedy said, how can we get there? Let's go to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth. Von Braun says, just the will to do it. That's all you need. You know, to move to a much higher frequency of thought, and that's what you're doing, you must first consent. You know, but nobody can do this for you. You know that person you just brought into the business, you'd love to do this for them, you can't do it for them. You cannot do it for them. They got to do it themselves. You can't do it for your own kids. They got to do it. Then they have to adapt to the ideas and the feelings the new frequency represents. If you move, and the kids move, and they have to go to a different school, they have to adapt to that new frequency. They're in a different environment. You got to adapt to these things. Now here's what we want to know. At the suggestion of a move, your paradigm is instantly going to put up a huge battle. All that conditioning inside is going to put up a huge battle, and it will continually fight you. You've got to take conscious control over the paradigm, and remove and replace it. So there you are there, and say, that's where I want to go. Well, we want to understand, rather than let that fade, let's understand this. There is a place. That's a frequency. That is a place. And you have gone there. The second you've gone there. See, all the great avatars, all the great leaders, they've known if you can see it, if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. If you can see what you're going to do with the business, then you can do it. That's how you got into the mirage. That's how the company's become what it is. That's how your company's becoming what it is. There is not something to just let fade. Look at. In this book is a paragraph. If you were to look in the book, I highlighted that paragraph in yellow, I don't know, 50 years ago. And it's one that I just kept studying. He says there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief and not mere hope or wish. Open-mindedness is essential to belief. Closed mind will not inspire faith, courage, or belief. You see, you're not ready for something until you believe you can do it. Hoping and wishing won't cut it. So when you sit down with a person and you're helping them build a big idea, you're going to have to educate them. You've got to help them understand something about themselves. You can do that by possibly sharing some of your own path that you've been on. But you see, you've got to believe it. Believe is the key. Remember I told you it took me 9.5 years to get all the pieces to fit? I was in a hotel with Vanderwall, and he said something, and everything came together. Now, I had learned that there's only two sources of reference you can go to. One's science and the other's theology. There's only half a dozen religions. I think in California there's 5,000. Everybody starts their own. So, I mean, you know, but there's only a half a dozen religions. Every one of them are in a complete agreement you got to believe. All the great psychology teachers said you got to believe. William James in Harvard, back in 1900, he said, believe and your belief will actually create the fact. That's the key. Well, I was sitting there with Vanderwall, and I knew this, and I think, how do you believe? I mean, that's a big, how do you believe? And he said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. I thought, wow. That's what happened to me. I went from earning $4,000 a year and living in debt and unhappy to becoming happy, healthy, wealthy, and business all over the world. Wow. I kept studying, and because I kept studying, I kept believing more of what I could do, because I started to understand me better. Know thyself, know thy higher self. That was the key. And that's how my belief, I was thinking, how do you change your belief? That's how, through study. Our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently when we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. That's what I had done. And all of a sudden I got so excited because I knew then why I changed, and I knew I could teach other people how to make the change they want to make. You see, as we look at this, let's understand this. When I said there is a place, there is a place. Don't think it's just a thought. You took your mind to a higher frequency. You saw what was there. That's how we've got the life we've got today. Two young bicycle mechanics, they defied logic. They introduced us to a new kingdom. I flew down here, I've got to fly down to California, go back to Toronto, the next day I've got to go to Germany and then to Vienna. All over the world, doesn't matter where you go, you can get there, nothing flat. Why? Someone raised their level of consciousness. They realized there's a place. You got to believe. You keep studying what Jenna tells you to study, I guarantee you your life will change. Your business will grow. Now look at this. Hill said, remember, no more effort is required in order to aim high, to demand abundance and prosperity, than is required to accept misery and poverty. Doesn't take any more energy. It's exactly the same energy. You know the energy I was worrying with? That same energy I built since sitting with it. You can do anything. Doesn't matter where you came from. What matters is where you're going. Now look at the moment your belief matches with any state you fuse with it, you become one with it. This union results in the activation and projection of its plots and plans and conditions and circumstances. When you believe, everything in your world starts to change. Your perception shifts. Everything around you changes. You're seeing different people, you're mixing with different people, you're going different places, doing different things. Some of you have seen so much change, it's mind-boggling. And you've seen nothing relative to what you're going to see. That's the way it works. See, this new state of conscious awareness becomes your home, from which you view the world. This is your workshop. Yet if you're observing, you will see your outer reality shaping itself upon the model of your imagination. It's all scientific. It can be explained right down to the smallest detail. We've got so much going for us. and yet we don't really understand it. Now look at Steve Jobs says you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Isn't that interesting? You don't know how you're going to get there, but you know you're going to get there. You don't know how you're going to get to the next level, but you know you're going to get there. You don't have to know how you're going to get there. I had the good fortune of working with Edmund Hillary on 3 or 4 occasions. He's gone now, God bless him, but the only difference in Ed Hillary and myself is his size. He was a big guy. He was a beekeeper from Auckland. But he was the first guy to stand on top of the world. He went there in 51 and he failed. He went back in 1952 against all the relatives and the neighbors thought he was going out of his mind because everybody had died that had gone up there. He failed again in 52. But in 1953, he and Tenzing Norgay stood right on top of the world. He knew he could get there because he could see it in here. And if you can see it in here, you can hold it out here. That's just the way it works. Now look at, what did he say? He said, you can't connect the dots looking back, you can only connect them looking forward. And that's just the way it works. And as you start moving, it starts happening. It just starts to unfold right in front of you. Now, here's the crazy part of it. When you get there, you'll say, damn, I could have gone there. Yeah. That's the part you want to remember. Don't be afraid of shooting too high. Most people are shooting too low. Now, nothing is big or small except our thinking makes it so. Everything just is. I remember one time I was going to Israel to do a seminar. You fly out of Toronto at night to go to Israel, but I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night. I got to the airport and went to check in. She says, I'm sorry, Mr. Proctor, you can't get on the plane. I said, what are you talking about? Why not? She says, your passport's no good. I said, my passport is good until July. It's only April. She says, no, your passport has to be good for 6 months from the date you leave Israel. I'd never heard of this. This is pretty common in many countries. But I'd never heard of it before. This is a few years ago. I said, oh, let me on the plane anyway. It won't matter. Yeah, she said, it will matter, and we can't let you on the plane. If we did, as soon as you landed, they'd put you on the next plane out of the country. I said, oh, okay. I had people come from all over Israel to a seminar. And the woman that was putting together, I thought she'd be really upset. She says, well, it is what it is. God, I learned the biggest lesson that day. It is what it is. That's the way it is. Don't get upset. It is what it is. Can you do the best you can? If it doesn't work, that's the way it is. Now let's look here. Your spiritual being is perfect. It requires no modification, no improvement. Okay? Now let's look. You're a spiritual being living in a physical body. You've been gifted with an intellect. And it's the intellect that'll dictate your emotional state, and that's going to control where you're going. And if you've got a problem there, it's your intellect, it's the thoughts that you're thinking that is messing things up. And that's what we want to change. And we're quite capable of changing it. All we have to do is gain an understanding. So let's look. The highest side of our personality is the spiritual side of us. That's the part nobody can see. The lower side is the physical, and then we have the intellect. Now with the intellect, we can tap into the non-physical, which is omnipresent, doesn't matter where you are. You can be underwater and you can think. Yet you can pull the thoughts together and you can build ideas. Yet it's the ideas that you build and hold in your mind that's ultimately going to manifest into results and change your world. You can think anything you want. It's by activating the higher side of our own personality, and that's the side we have not been taught much about, unfortunately. Your goal is most important. This is where you really connect the dots. Okay? Now, why is goal creation an art? Goal creation is an art because you're manipulating energy. You're causing energy to move from where it is to where it's going, and it would have never gone there if you hadn't been involved. It's very, very important. And there's a three-step approach to this. A, B, C. A is where you've been in before, and so you'll have a tendency to set goals to do something you've already done. B is if you figured it all out and you think you can do it. C is what you want to do. Now you see, the fantasy is the part we were discouraged. That's for kids. So we were encouraged not to do that. So we go from where? We go from what we know to what we think we can do. And we get bored there. There's no inspiration in it, so we come back down here and then do what we know we can do. And this is the way people bounce back and forth their whole life, and that's usually where they stay stuck. They don't know that they live with the creative faculties. Fantasy is what you want. That's where you start. Build a fantasy in your mind of yourself already at the level you want to be at. You take the fantasy and you turn it into a theory in your consciousness. And before you can turn that theory into a goal, you have to ask two questions. Am I able? And am I willing? And when the answer to that is, yes, I'm able, I've got infinite power, and yes, I'm willing to do what? To do whatever is required. Then I've turned that theory into a goal, got emotionally involved, and instantly that goal begins to move into physical form. And you turn the goal then into a fact. Now that is how this company has come together. When you get it together, then you're in the position to build bigger and better fantasies. That's a creative process. Now all of us can be involved in this, and I think the more we study, the more we're going to do it. And this is where von Braun said, the only thing you need is the will to do it. You have the will, and you can go anywhere, and you can accomplish anything. Now there's a problem here, and I'm going to explain something that I learned a long time ago. It's called a terror barrier. When you go to do something, it's scary because you're going where you've never been. And there's a four-step approach to this. You'll see the first one's bondage, the second reasons, the third's the terror barrier, and on the other side is freedom. So let's look at how we get there. Now every one of us experiences this at one time or another. Here we are in bondage. The X represents the conditioning. That's the paradigm in the subconscious mind, and it produces X-type results. What kind of thoughts do we think? We can think anything we want. We will think X-type thoughts because they're in harmony with our conditioning. The conditioning controls how you feel. You're not going to think thoughts that scare you. You're going to think thoughts that you're in harmony with. Then somebody comes along, or you come along, and you start talking to a person about my daily choice. And you talk to them about all the good things that can happen. Now, they start thinking they'd like to move here, they'd like to quit this job or do that. It's a why idea. As long as you're discussing the idea just in your conscious mind, everything's cool. Nothing happens, because the idea is just in the conscious mind. It's when you internalize that idea that all hell breaks loose, and that's when you hit what's called the terror barrier. And as you impress that why idea upon the X, everything goes crazy. And you run into what's called a terror barrier, and you bounce off that, worry, doubt, and fear strike, and you come right back to where you start. And that happens to people time and time again. They never learn to go through the terror barrier. You know, Joseph Campbell said something I think that's so good. He said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. Now think about that. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. If you've got a goal, you just want to go crashing right through the terror barrier. Don't worry about it. And as you go through it, you'll still experience the fear, because the fear is the X and Y energy mixing. But through the repetition of listening to the recordings, reading the book, pretty soon the X conditioning is gone and you're living in a totally new world. Now, this is something I learned over a long period of time. I want you to follow this and you'll see how this happens. You have a choice. There's a power flowing into your consciousness. You can stay in ignorance or you can develop knowledge. Okay? When that power flows into your consciousness, you can think anything you want. Absolutely anything you want. You have the freedom of thought. Yet generally, we will look at what we've got, and because we don't know how we're going to get the money to get there or get the people to do this, we start to doubt and worry. Now follow the track here. When a person starts to doubt and worry, that's on a conscious level. We get emotionally involved, it causes fear. The fear has to be expressed because it was impressed, it has to be expressed through the body, so it expresses itself in anxiety. The anxiety is not expressed, it's suppressed. We bottle it up inside. The suppression turns to depression, the depression turns to disease, and the disease to disintegration. That's why St. Clair Lewis said we don't die, we kill ourselves. Now that's the way most people are living. And it's sad they don't have to do that. Faith based on understanding is the key to freedom. Look over here. Here's a person here, they're starting to understand what's doing. That's why Solomon said, in all you're getting, get understanding. Understand what you need to get to the top of your goal. Understand what you have to do for you to take control over you. Quit letting conditions and circumstance control you. Now, the understanding, the only way you're going to get it is through study. There is no other way to get it. When I was talking to Josh and Jenna, Josh said he's not into reading, he's into listening. So he's getting it on through the recordings. She's into the books. Didn't matter how you get it. Get it. Understanding. The only way to get it is through study. So we have a choice, and we take and we impress that on faith as well-being, expression, acceleration, and that is because you're at ease, and that causes creation. So you've got your choice there. You can bounce from there or there. It's your choice. Which way do you go? Now let's look. I'm going to bring it in for a landing in a minute. Let's look at the law of compensation. This company is based on this law. The law of compensation is clear. The amount of money you earn is going to be in exact ratio to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Now think about that. The amount of money you earn is in direct ratio to the need for what you do, your ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing you. Now think about the need for what you do. What you're really doing is showing people how to take control of their life. Forget about the product for a minute, just think of the marketing part of it. You're showing people how to earn what they want, live where they want, work where they want. Then you take a look at the product from a physical perspective, you're helping people on that level. So everywhere you go in the world, there's people want what you've got. The need is there. So that's there, you don't have to worry about it, your ability to do it. How good are you at it? If you develop your ability, you're going to be very difficult to replace. And that's when the stock goes up. That's what you focus on. Get really good at what you're doing, and you'll become very difficult to replace. Hill talks about the big money. Anybody can get into it, but you have to understand how. Earl Nightingale said most people want more money than they think they do and settle for a whole lot less than you could earn. So true. If you make effective use of paradigm power, you're going to shift that paradigm. You can literally turn your annual income into a monthly income. There would be people in this room who have done that. They've turned their annual income to a monthly income. It may just be a dream for you, but understand this, if they can, you can. Okay? Now look. There are 3 income earning strategies. If you're going to teach your children one, teach them the third one. It's the only one that really works well. M1 is not a good strategy. It never was and it never will be. It's got an inherent problem. It's called saturation. M1 is used by 96 out of every 100 people. It's where they trade their time for money. It's a losing strategy. M2 is an excellent strategy. It's only used by 3% of the population, and for very good reason. There's only 3% have any money to invest. This is where money earns money. M3 is a strategy I stumbled on way back in the 60s. I started earning a lot of money and I really didn't know what I was doing. You're working with an M3 strategy. M3 is used to earn 96% of all the money that 1% is earning, and they do that, they multiply their time by setting up multiple sources of income. That's really what you're doing. And you know something? That's what your company is involved in. That's the path you're on. It's a winning path. There's no question about it. Now look at our world is changing, and it's changing so fast, it almost make your head spin. And the world's not getting bigger, the world is getting smaller. It's actually shrinking. You're not a long ways away from anywhere anymore. You can have business all over the world through this business. Every time you recruit someone, you've set up a source of income. Multiple sources of income is what wealthy people have used right back to the ancient Babylonians. They've always had multiple sources of income. Most people have one source, or if the spouse works, they have two. Then they may take on a part-time job, they have three. If you really want to win, you need multiple sources of income. Every time you bring a person into the business, that's a source of income. It's so important we understand this. And this is what you're introducing to people when you bring them into this company. When you tell them, my daily choice is about building a business, a global organization, because that's what you've got. Now, I call that the Wheel of Fortune, and the question is, are they all the same size of income? No. Some will build a big business, some will keep them small. But they all have one thing in common. They all flow into your bank. It doesn't matter where in the world the money comes from, it's converted and put in your bank. It's a beautiful thing, and it just keeps adding up. Now, I've caused you to think about a lot of different things. You've become aware of some things maybe you weren't aware of before. You're in the position now to make a big decision. That's what this whole conference is about. It's about you making a decision that you're going to do something with your business that you never dreamed before you came here. And I'm going to tell you, you're quite capable of doing it. No one knows where you're capable of going. No one. Before you close your eyes and go to sleep tonight, I want to suggest you stop and think of what von Braun said to President Kennedy. When Kennedy said, Dr. von Braun, what would it take for us to build a rocket that will carry a person to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth? He answered him in 5 words, the will to do it. That's all it'll take for you to execute a picture of yourself building a very big business with my daily choice. Build the business as big as you want in your mind and realize just going to take the will to do it. And what does that mean? That means the will is the mental faculty that you use to hold one idea on the screen of the mind. Just keep seeing the business the way you want it to be. Don't listen to anyone except someone that can support you and say, yes, I believe you can do it. And don't talk to your relatives or neighbors about what you're doing. Talk to your leaders about where you're going. Okay? I want to congratulate Jenna and Joshua. I think when Gene and I flew out of here, when we went in to see them, we were absolutely amazed with what they have done. 2 real young people building something very big. Now look at, if they can build what you're a part of, what can you do? My goodness, there's no end to where you can go. Build the business very big in your mind. Okay? I want to thank you for your attention. I've obviously enjoyed myself. We dumped a lot of information on you, and you will forget a lot of it, but you'll remember a lot of it. Make up your mind for the rest of your life, you're going to study it. I made that decision a long, long time ago. And you know something? I'm still going strong. I have a great life. I have wonderful friends all over the world. I earn more money than I would ever hope to get. And if I can do it, you can do it. That's what I was telling Joe in Kingston Penitentiary. I said, Joe, if I can, you can. And I said, your situation and my situation may be totally different. But I'll tell you something. If you hold the right image in your mind, your situation will change. Regardless of how dull it may look or how bad it may look. Hold a picture of what you want. I want to recommend that you go online tonight. Download the lyrics for the song by Nat King Cole, Pretend. The lyrics are phenomenal. He starts out by saying, pretend you're happy when you're blue. It isn't very hard to do. And pretty soon you'll find happiness without an end whenever you pretend. That's the way you want to live with your business. Pretend you're already where you want to go. Just pretend. He says the little things you haven't got could be a lot if you pretend. I want to thank Jenna and Josh for inviting us here. I want to thank you for your attention. God bless you. Thank you.
Hey everybody, man, I am so honored to be with a company that truly values these high vibration speakers like Les Brown and Bob Proctor. He gave us all this copy of Think and Grow Rich. I am reading it again. I've read it several times, but I'm telling you, if you are vibing with what he's saying, join our company. Connect with the person who shared this video with you, or look at the comments, the editorial on this video, and you can reach out to me directly. We would love to have you join our team and really, really change lives. So thank you so much for enjoying our video today, and stay in touch and reach out and reach higher. All right. Love you all. Bye-bye.